What's up? What's up? What is up? It's another Friday, another opportunity to get together and record the Ball Hog Sports Talk. We are in the building today. It's a beautiful Friday. For me, I'm out in Seattle. So I'm on the West Coast, the left coast. We got the entire crew in the building. So I promise you don't want to miss what we have going on. Today's episode is going by the clutch gene. That's right. There's a gene that we refer to as the clutch gene in sports. Make sure that you fasten your seatbelts. Make sure you pour you a nice tall mug of coffee. You can spike it with whatever you want because the whole crew is in the building. It's where sports, business, and entertainment collide. It's the Ball Hog Sports Talk. We do it one way and one way only. Rough, rugged, and raw. Pull up a seat, y'all. Put on your seatbelt and let's. You can relax as we put on another Friday, man. So with no further ado, boys and girls, cats and rats, dogs and frogs, let's get going and let's go.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, and stay woke. Because this is the Ball Hog Sports Talk with your boy, B. Brown, ESQ, a.k.a. the Ball Hog, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South. This is the place where sports, business, and entertainment collide. And we're going to give it to you rough, rugged, and raw. So come get you a spoonful, like some grits with butter and salt. You know how we do it in the South, y'all. Make sure you do not get caught in your feelings. Strap on your seatbelt and enjoy the ride. Come on, let's go.
Once again, it's on. Right in front of this microphone, man. Straight from Seattle, man. Sleepless in Seattle because my doggone body. And now I know why they say sleepless in Seattle. My body's on the East Coast, but my clock is on the West Coast. So we're going to figure it out, man. The Clutch Gene episode is about to be epic. We have the whole crew in the building. We're going to start with, I guess I'll start reverse this time. I'm going to go with the East Coast, furthest away from me, but always connected. Our man who is a world traveler, making big deals and having a good time, hopefully along the way. But he's back in the building today. No further ado, it's ETP Ellis, the producer. Mr. Beantown himself is back. What's up, ETP?
I'm just living life, man. Trying to stay warm in the winter. Snow outside is not melting, but we had a good run with not a lot of snow. But coming back from tropical weather, it hurts my feelings. So left all that. Now I'm back to snow and bills, as they say.
There we go, man. We had them, both of them waiting on you, the snow and the bills. We made sure we put them on pause. We didn't want you to lose either one of those opportunities to face the snow or the bills. So
I'm happy to be back because I had to be back early for a big birthday celebration.
Yeah, so that's why I wanted to make sure I waited and teed it up perfectly. Because every year, if you follow Mr. Big Flo on social media, you know he really does a good job of presenting this day as an illustrious day, an amazing day that we all have to circle on our calendar, pay homage to, dress up, even look at it. He even got on his glasses today so you can see well today. This is a day that we shall always remember is known as the ultimate Big Flo Show Day. Happy born day to our guy, the man, the myth, the legend, thou who shall be intergalactically known and respected as and universally approached as the Big Flo Show. What's up?
I appreciate y'all, man. I want to ask y'all to keep it down, though. You guys being kind of loud, I'm getting a little old. My vision is not quite right. I had to put on a sweater because I'm getting cold. I did, I've been up. I had to get up P3 times last night. I couldn't stay up past midnight. These birthdays are starting to set in, man. So I'm trying to embrace it, trying to get my new look more mature. My ARP card, I'm on my second year membership with ARP. I'm going to go get some discounted coffee, even though I don't drink coffee. Once the show was over.
You're just going to take the discount because
I just got to take they got good discounts, man. So I appreciate y'all, man.
Hey, we won't ask you to disclose the number. We know the number, but we will say, man, black don't crack, brother. You're looking good for 78
years old.
I
appreciate that. I appreciate that. Me and Methuselah went to high school together. I will say that. We were in the same high school graduation class. But I don't know, man. But forget that, man. I'm still that guy.
You
I'm still that guy. I'm still
Yeah,
that guy.
okay.
Ain't nobody messing with me. Get the chest out.
Yeah.
What's up, man?
Black-
You know, man. You
black,
thought ain't nothing
ladies and
changed.
gentlemen.
Ain't nothing changed since yesterday. Ain't nothing changed. What's going on, baby? It's all been popping around here, man. We ready to rock, man. We
So
ready to rock.
old age, Mother Nation thought he could handle you.
Hey,
He ain't got no chance against
I'm
you.
Caitlin Clark around this.
Yeah.
You from the logo around this stuff. You know what I'm talking about? Thank you. I appreciate everybody, man.
Time is now infinite and one.
There you go.
Plus one.
You
Hey,
got
I've counted
it,
to infinity twice, boy. I'm the coolest man out here. So look, I'm gonna tell you, everybody, man, who's been wishing me happy birthday, text, keep them coming, man. Some of y'all taking y'all time, man. But I appreciate the well wishes, even if I do solicit them myself. I do love making to each birthday, man. There's been a couple people who haven't made it. And I try to surviving for them, you know, doing whatever. So getting old is a blessing, but it sucks.
Yeah, man.
You know, let's go.
Yeah, to your point, man.
Baby.
To your point, we lost a lot of friends and teammates, Notre Dame brothers, over the last several years, man. So whenever any of us gets to celebrate a birthday, man, we want to make sure we take the opportunity to actually celebrate it, man. So happy birthday to you, my brother.
Appreciate you.
Today's episode is going by the title, The Clutch Gene. And I think the first example of the clutch gene is the fact that you're here this morning. Most people take their birthday off. It is a national black holiday when your birthday is right.
Absolutely.
Right? Black folk been taking off of work for I don't know how long.
I was intentionally born in Black History Month.
There you go.
So y'all that had to, you know what I mean, work outside the framework. Y'all could just right here in the middle.
Right here,
Let's
man.
go. Leap year too. We got an extra long Black History Month this month. So
we
celebrate
got
one more
day.
time for me.
I'll
take that day.
But what I will say is this: you are the model example of the clutch gene. You showed up this morning on your birthday, ready to work. So how dare we not get in? We have to go to our resource, our go-to whenever there's a question about our titles. And today's episode is the clutch gene. So we went to our resource, which is the Urban Dictionary, to look for what it really means. And the Urban Dictionary defines clutch gene as an expression to describe an athlete's ability to perform well at the end of the game when there's a lot of pressure. Pressure is highest, the clutch gene shows. In basketball, it can be hitting the game-winning shot as the time expires. In football, it can mean a quarterback leading his team to a game-winning drive in the fourth quarter. And for the Ball Hog Sports Talk, it means showing up even on your birthday.
Ready to go.
Showing what the clutch gene is.
Showing up.
You know we got to start with Miss Clutch herself, because there is a woman that goes by the name of Caitlin Clark, CC, shall we say. And CC is a carbon copy of the clutch gene. When you think of clutch gene, you think of CC. And Caitlin Clark, after last week's disappointment in Nebraska, where she scored a lot of points, but they came up on the losing end of the game. I think because, and this is just me speculating, I don't think she wanted to break the record on the road away. She became very tentative. The team became tentative. And because they weren't working through her as the primary scorer, they ended up giving up that game. And you knew that when she returned home, when she went back to Iowa, when she got her sneakers all laced up playing in Carver Hawkeye Arena with only needing 8 points to break what was Kelsey Plum's long-standing record. Has been there for not too long-standing, but enough. Right? Kelsey Plum said it at the University of Washington, and it was something that the entire world was trying to watch. You knew Caitlin Clark was going to get busy, and she got busy fast. She got to it, man. She got right to the buckets. The actual shot in which she broke the record, I think we got that queued up. But this is an example, a video depiction in real life of the clutch gene. Because once she was 5 points away, you almost knew she was going to make a three. Mm-hmm. But Caitlin Clark didn't stop there. See, what the clutch gene does, it puts you in a situation where you do the unthinkable. She shot a logo three. And for those who don't know, that means it is about as deep as it can get from the Iowa Hawkeye logo in Carver Hawkeye Arena. Let's show Caitlin Clark breaking the record and cementing herself, although she's done so time and time again, but in this case, cementing herself as the example, the model of the clutch gene. Love how the crowd erupted. Bang, bang, record-breaking gang. Caitlin Clark, shout out to her, man. Shout out to Caitlin Clark and all of those who celebrated. What I think that we did as a sports community, we missed out on an opportunity. I looked everywhere trying to find that game. I knew she was close to breaking the record. I'm out here in Seattle doing work at a conference, and I abruptly stopped when I saw an update, a sports update that said that Caitlin Clark was getting closer to the record. I hurry up to my room, and I'm flying through these doggone channels trying to figure out exactly what's going on with Caitlin Clark, and I wanted to see it, and it was nowhere to be seen. Let's start with her breaking the record. What do you guys think of when you see her hit a logo 3 to cement herself into history? And now she's only 99 points away from breaking the all-time scoring record, which is not specific to men or women. She broke the women's record, Kelsey Plum, and now Pistol Pete Maravich is the next target in sight. She only needs 99 points, and the way she's been scoring, that could be only 2 games. It could be one. Right? She mess around and get the 100 and have the sign like Wilks did. What do you guys think of Caitlin Clark? I'll start with you on this one, birthday boy. When you think of the clutch gene, you see Caitlin Clark, when you see her tenacity when it comes to scoring points. She led her team and broke her own high scoring record of 49 in what was a blowout win. Caitlin Clark, you say what to?
I mean, what can't you say about her? I think she's as advertised. She's not overrated. I mean, I don't know what work she's put in to see it. I know that the talent is there. I'm sure she's had to put countless hours in shooting. I think it's amazing just to it's like when she shot that shot, like you knew it was going in. These are the first 8 points of the game. She just gave it to you real quick. And nothing they could do to stop her. It was an off-balance shot. It wasn't whatever, but she's just so pure. It went in like it was a wide open, shot from wherever. So I like watching her. She's an exciting girl to watch. She has a little drama sometimes. She goes a little bit too far. She caught a little elbow, and she wanted to review it. When the crowd lady, the girl ran and hit her on the crowd, I thought she was a little dramatic, but LeBron does stuff like that too, and that's my guy. So I'm not gonna hold it against Caitlin. That would be sexist. So I don't know. I think she's a great player. I do think it's amazing she's about to break the all-time scoring record. Not to down her, but I think it speaks more to the fact that every real goon in basketball. I mean, Pistol Pete Maravich has this record for a reason, because there's been many goons that are way better than Pistol Pete that have come out, but they just don't stay long enough to break the record. But regardless, she'll hold it, and I would say she'll hold it forever. But I think that the motivation to see young women out there playing basketball, my niece, had my sister-in-law take her to the game. I think tickets when they played Northwestern, I think it was like $250 a ticket. The motivating factor she has for young women out there, I think, is amazing. And I see it firsthand just in my family, watching people say they love her and they can't wait to see it. And I can't think of another girl that brought this many people out into the game of women's basketball. So I think it's something special. I love watching history.
Yeah, people talk about the days of Cheryl Miller or some of the names of the Goliaths of women basketball back in the day, but I think it was just we had limited access. And so if there's anything I would say that was a fail, it was, look, Caitlin Clark has been a cash cow. Wherever she plays, the ticket sales are astronomical. The price goes up. There should be a study on just her economic impact of respective communities just by going and playing a basketball game. So the respect level is there, but also the access we're able to see. But if there was a fail, I think the fail was that it should have been on just regular TV. We all should have been able to see Caitlin Clark break that record. Right.
Agreed.
We're going to get into like the viewership of the Super Bowl and how just Taylor Swift's involvement, whether directly, indirectly, or however you want to view her involvement in the Super Bowl, how that impacted viewership. I stopped what I was doing in the middle of a freaking conference to go see Caitlin Clark. I was so mad that I couldn't find it. I'm like, what are we doing? How do we not have Caitlin Clark? And they had on the South Carolina and Tennessee game. South Carolina's undefeated, and respect to everything that Dawn Staley is doing there. But to get an opportunity to watch someone break a record that is one of those things that it just sticks out. It's just it's one of the things where years from now you say, where was I when Caitlin Clark broke that record? And she'll break another one. Maybe they're waiting till she breaks the Pistol Pete one. But I feel like we missed a golden opportunity when it comes to a media opportunity. We missed a golden opportunity for everyone to tune in and watch this young lady show off her clutch gene.
Let me say this. Some people miss. Paramount Plus didn't. We didn't mention this in the pregame. Paramount Plus, the way they showed it, when you log into Paramount Plus, it said Caitlin Cast at the bottom, right? I'm not joking. I should have took a picture. When you watch the TV, it had Caitlin Cast on top of the TV. It had the full game on the left. So the way that we're sitting right here, Ellis would be the full game, and I would be a close-up on Caitlin watching her run around the court. And the top banner said Caitlin Cast.
Yeah.
They cashed in on that moment. They wanted to make sure they can make some plaques, posters, T-shirts. They had that thing going. And then they didn't, once she broke the record, they put it back to a full TV. But until then, it said Caitlin Cast. I was like, this is an amazing situation right here. I agree with you 100%. I don't like the fact that we restrict access to sports moments. I think those are a right, just like network TV is a right. To NBC, ABC, CBS is a right. I think you should be on those things when you have record-breaking moments. It really bothers me that you take that to a subscription model TV station, especially because people aren't forewarned like yourself. You didn't know.
I didn't know.
Supposed to go do.
I thought it was so obvious that it would be accessible that I never even thought to look up what channel. I'm just like, all right, it's got to be on one of these channels. And I'm in a hotel. I could have figured out subscription. I'm like, I'm not doing all that. I want to just watch her play. ETP, I'll throw it to you, man. You get last word. Caitlin Clark steps up, breaks the record. Of course, the shot is a three-pointer. Of course, it's from the logo. Of course, it then conjures up these conversations about, whether it's, there's a lot of conversation about, Steph Curry and who's he shooting against? Ionescu. Who's he shooting against?
Sabrina Ionescu.
But the conversation is about who's the best 3-point shooter as you watch her break that record. I'll give you last word in terms of this clutch gene, in terms of Caitlin Clark, in terms of women basketball. This moment, this record, you get last word on it. What do you think when you watch it all go down?
I mean, like you said, the players of the past, from my eyes, what I've ever seen in terms of women's basketball, like there's been some great women's basketball being played for as long as I've been watching basketball. She's the most exciting to watch. I guess I would also say she's the best I've ever seen. Just when like the Brittany Griner era and Maya Moore and, UConn when they were even more of a powerhouse with Sue Bird and Taurasi and going back to like Rebecca Lobo, Lisa Les, all that. But she, in terms of the eye test, like her level of confidence, and she just goes unconscious. And the fact that she is in the press conference after she breaks the record and says, "You knew I was going to shoot it from the logo to break the record." Like, come on.
She got the moxie too, man. She's got
the confidence level and the ability to, I think I like to see that in women's sports because a lot of times historically it's been very like suppressed in terms of that like confidence and the bravado and all of that that's wildly marketed in men's sports.
Yeah.
So, obviously we've gotten into it even last year with like Angel Reese and it became a racial issue and all of these things. But for whatever reason, without getting into that depth of it, like I appreciate that there can be some chest thumping and all of that that's being a lot more widely accepted, regardless of who's delivering it from a female perspective.
I was going to say this because I'm glad you brought it up. And I could be wrong. I was going to say I felt as though the racial undertones that were thrown at us, it was a narrative that was pushed on us, and I don't think it wasn't widely accepted. The narrative I don't think was widely accepted in the sense that we just saw two competitors competing there was this racial undertone that narrative that was thrown at us. And I think that what we saw yesterday in Caitlin Clark, and just really throughout the year, everyone, black, white, and everything in between, is just appreciated that she has the moxie. She has the clutch gene. She has what, as a sports purist, you want to see. She's, our show is called, right, Ball Hog Sports Talk. And we do this Ball Hog Spotlight moment where you got the ball in the center of the court. If there's anybody that has the ball in the center of the court in a moment that matters, you want Caitlin Clark. Now, I think the Barbie was her, Angie, what do I want to call her? Angel Reese. I want to call her Angela. Angel Reese has her own qualities. And I think LSU and what South Carolina is doing, like my man Scott Bibb said, shout out to everyone who's tuned in and appreciate it. Should be and is celebrated, but we can walk and chew gum at the same time. I think that Dawn Staley and that, I think they're 23-0 now, and they beat everybody who has dared to step up and think that they can dethrone the champ. South Carolina just keeps figuring it out, and it is amazing. But at the same time, we can celebrate an amazing accomplishment like Caitlin Clark. She shot it from the logo, and of course she's gonna shoot it from the logo because she has the clutch gene. Shout out to her, man.
I want to credit her for when it became a racial issue. I want to credit her for stepping on it, killing it right away. I feel like she gained a lot of fans at a time where she could have been polarizing and said some stuff different, and people would have hated her forever. But I think she gained the black community over when she was just like, whatever. She was talking crap. That's what I was at her. She was at me. She's a great player. I'm a great player. We do what we got to do. And people are like, all right, cool. Let's throw this back and let's just roll. So I got to give her credit for handling that the right way.
Yeah. I mean, I think the fact that she plays at Iowa and there's a grand total of 3 black people in Iowa, that's a back of the envelope estimation. Not
one of them is Haitian too, by the way.
But I think that's why it sort of had some legs. But yeah, shout out to Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, the Barbie, for deading it and making it about basketball. So when it comes to basketball, when it comes to what's the Maury Povich, when they do the paternity test, when it comes to the clutch gene test, she absolutely is positively clutch. And so shout out to Caitlin Clark. What an amazing, amazing opportunity for her that she took advantage of. What an amazing moment for sport. And I guess I'll get more specific and say women's basketball, but I just think sport in general benefited from that moment yesterday. For those of you who are commenting, thank you. Like we ask humbly every week, please like, please comment, please share, please tag a friend, please tag a foe, please tag anybody that you know, and please subscribe to both the YouTube channel and the podcast. Now think about that. It won't cost you anything, but come through for us, man. Have the clutch gene. Help us get to more ears and to more eyes by liking, commenting, sharing, tagging, and subscribing. All of them. Let's do a reflection on the Super Bowl because we're talking about the clutch gene. That's today's episode, and we saw a lot of clutch genes in the Super Bowl. Now, the truth of the matter is Super Bowl 58 delivered. It absolutely, positively delivered. And I am using certain metrics to say other people agree with me. Those metrics are viewership metrics. And so it was obvious that, it is what it is. It was obvious that the Taylor Swift, let's call it, what are we going to call it? Taylor Swift involvement, the Swifties were going to have an impact. So looking at the increased percentage on viewership, women 18 to 24-year-olds, and I think they called them Swifties. That percentage was up 24% year over year compared to the Super Bowl 57. Super Bowl 58, men ages 18 to 24, probably accompanying the women 18 to 24 because they probably watched it together. I can imagine dates based on the Swiftie model. That men group of 18 to 24 was up 20% year over year. And then girls ages 12 to 17, probably the second largest group of Swifties, subgroup of Swifties. That subsection or that demographic was up 11%. A record 202.4 million people watched at least part of the game. And the game delivered because it went into overtime. So before we get into overtime and the clutch gene that we saw in terms of on the field, there was a halftime show that also delivered. Usher brought off the skates. Usher took off the shirt. Usher brought out the guest. Usher brought out all the ATL. Usher brought out your dance moves. I know you was in there dancing, Big Flo. Usher. Immediately afterwards, I don't know what that look was on your face, but please don't make it again.
Yeah, that's the old man look. You gotta keep that. Keep them looking here so they can't see if you're on beat.
What?
All right.
And I know, recency bias is probably kicking me right in the chest when I say this, but right after the halftime show, I uttered to my man, Chufu Jordan, who was in town. We went to a Super Bowl party together. I was like, yo, that might have been one of the best halftime shows ever. And a few days later, less than a week, I think I'm going to stand on it.
When you say one of the best or the best, like
one, well, I might have said the best
be a
at the
little
moment.
bit more.
I might have said the best at the moment. I've moved back from that. I've expanded to say one of the best, top five, which has been 58 iterations. Top five, top 10%. So I'm at least say that. ETP, I'm gonna start with you on this one, man. You are someone that in addition to all the business stuff, you understand music. You've been in that space. You know sort of the cachet that Usher holds. Did he deliver? Was that a clutch gene? Because there were a lot of doubters. There were people who said, question whether or not Usher was universal enough. Did he show, by way of his clutch gene, that indeed he was the right person for the job?
Yeah, I mean, he's a great performer. It's really interesting because there was definitely a period where, I mean, he's obviously had a ton of hits, and then I would say like around like 2000 or so, he had like he went dark musically for a while. But I think the main thing is just him doing this Vegas residency just kind of set him on the path to like really walk into the situation and blow people's minds. So it worked. I think the timing really worked. I think if he didn't have the Vegas residency, people would have been a lot more confused of like, where is this coming from? But
right.
I mean, he's a major artist of the current generation or just over the past couple generations, and he's not going anywhere. And he's kind of stepped back from music, or he's writing, but he's not in the spotlight as much, or he's doing TV shows and things like that. But the man knows how to put on a show, and he's been doing it in Vegas, and that's been national news. Like every week, whatever new famous woman shows up, and he serenades them, and it's the show, the news of the week, and then he just brought the show. So he's a major performer, underrated, I would say, probably up until now.
Look, I will not dignify the detractors who had something to say about him caressing at one point Alicia Keys, because I think it comes from the same poisonous tree that the Keke Palmer saga, and like I think that there's a distinctive line between life and art, and so he was performing, and she was performing by way of his performance. And so I won't go into it, but that did take a lot of the headlines too, is that Alicia Keys allowed Usher to caress her, and Swiss Beats should be somewhere upset. The whole model, if you think about it, for a performer, they're performing for free, right? And in some cases, you end up coming out of pocket, depending on what type of production you want for your performance. And the only way it makes sense is if you have the clutch gene and you deliver. Usher did it right around a new album that he just released. We know his residency is off the charts. You cannot get a ticket to that. He announced that he'll be doing something around a tour. So to take all the risk by performing and not getting a single penny for the performance, and sometimes coming out of your own pocket, you got to have the clutch gene and deliver in order to take full advantage of it and profit from that decision and taking that risk. Usher did that. Big Flo show. We won't ask you to show those moves again, but the clutch gene, Usher Raymond halftime show all the marbles in the middle of the table because he ain't getting paid for this. So if you don't deliver, people are gonna have so much critique, and the album sales could be in the toilet, in the tank, if you will, and you can be out of pocket financially. Give it up for Usher Raymond, man. What do you say?
I didn't see it. So
I
was at one party and I had to get to the next party and I missed it. So all I saw was the caress. And you know what? I just, you got, when you're married to a, so I can only comment on that portion of it and say, when you're married to a performer, if you marry an actress, you marry somebody who's famous, that comes with the territory, right? If you're married to Halle Berry, she has sex scenes in movies. That's way worse than the caress. Some people say he put a little extra on it, but I like how Swiss Beats came by and said, "Man, you guys are missing the point. That was a beautiful performance. Dress was great. Blah blah blah." He handled it like a G. You got to have a lot of security yourself if you're married to somebody who's beautiful and famous like that anyway. And then Usher got married right after the Super Bowl, so it's not obviously he felt like what I'm saying, that's your highest point of love is the day you get married, right? So. He's obviously not trying to do anything, but
I didn't know that Usher got married right after the Super Bowl.
Like right after, yeah, he got married right after. So
took full advantage, man. Took
full advantage of the show. Yeah, he had a free hotel room and he was already there. So
yeah, beat me in Vegas. My man, what's up, Coach Patrick? Says, listen, if you want to hold my wife's hand on stage, it's cool, but now you got to help pay this mortgage.
Pat got a point. But you know what? Alicia, she dropped her little album too. So I heard it was great. I'm sure my wife recorded it because she is a Swiftie and she probably wanted to make sure she saw what Swiftie was doing. I do find that amazing. Now I will switch topics on that, which I think the maddest person out here now is we're talking about Alicia Keys, we're talking about Usher, Taylor Swift. Patrick Mahomes' wife got to be sick. And then they brought the Ice Spice girl in there.
Ice Spice was in
She was getting all the hugs that Patrick Mahomes' wife was getting last couple games. I didn't see her once in that. I don't even know if she was allowed in the suite.
I think she's recently off of the Sports Illustrated. I think she's doing the swimsuit issue of Sports Illustrated.
She might do Playboys just to get likes. She might have been the shoot. I'm not say that, but she might have been. I don't know. She's upset. She might have been behind the beef. She got to be sick.
Yeah, the camera did find its way to other people. That's for sure. And normally, high-profile quarterback, they show the family, the wife, We're
gonna show the tight ends people and her friends. That tickles me. There was rumor that what's his name, that the Yeezy was in front of the booth. Was that? Oh, did you see that? They said that he had.
Yeah, he was trying to sit in front of Taylor Swift's suite, so that every time they showed that they would show him, and they were like, absolutely not.
Well, look, but let's look.
Did he have that black outfit on and the girl with the plastic Reynolds wrap dress?
Yeah, but now, his logo right on his face.
Since you mentioned it, and we can get in and out of this quickly. We weren't supposed to be discussing Yeezy. But this is where sports business and entertainment collide. Yeezy is Mr. Entertainment. We're talking about a sporting event. And from a business standpoint, Yeezy's commercial probably was the cheapest to make, but I think the most strategic in terms of his income. You have the rough numbers on that, ETP? Because I know it cost you. We talked last week. It cost $7 million for 30 seconds. Yeah. He recorded it basically on his iPhone. And I'm only exaggerating a little bit. And did so sending people to an e-commerce site, selling merch, and made about $20 million in revenue in one day.
Yep, 24 hours.
24 hours. So, hey, man, it's a thin line between crazy and genius, man. And he walks it on a daily basis because you got to have some real stones about you to go and spend $7 million on a self-promoting. You go to this site. But at the same time, hey, that's how the rich stay rich, man. That's a pretty clutch gene. You got to give it to him. He's got the clutch gene from a business standpoint.
Yeah, to dig into it, like just really from a marketing standpoint. So the other thing that was interesting is from an analytics, so everything that was for sale on the site was $20. So from a like market research perspective, when you price everything the same, you can start to evaluate demand for product, right? So if everybody goes in and everything's $20, but they're like, all right, I'm going to get the shoes or I'm going to get the shirt for 20, whatever it is, you can actually start to optimize your product mix based on how you're selling. They also got 300,000 pre-orders. It's all pre-order. So he's not coming out of pocket for the product. He's basically just paying for the product with the money that was already brought in. So he didn't have to invest anything up front except for the $7 million. So now he could take that money and go ahead and basically produce the goods and ship them out. The other thing is you got 300,000 orders. So now you have 300,000 customers that you can market to from here till eternity. And you know where they are. You got their email address. You know where in the world that they are located based on the address.
Maybe even they allow you to save your credit card information. It might have even captured, point of sale information with the credit card. He captured a lot of stuff with his.
Yeah, so the analytics of it is even more valuable for a long tail, like to the point where he can figure out how he's scheduling, what tour stops he should make, where his fan base is. I mean, there's a lot of data there just from, he basically conducted this marketing experiment that generated a ton of revenue.
I know that we have a bittersweet relationship with Yeezy because we fell in love with the music that evolved. We fell in love with him being able to be outspoken with what we thought were meaningful causes. That evolved into causes that seemed not as meaningful. And we started to question whether or not it was, again, crazy or genius. But damn, man, from a pure business standpoint, it didn't cost him anything to make that commercial. And we talked about it last week, Big Flow Show, as I teed it up for the sports management class that I'm teaching. As a small business, does it make sense to make that investment? He himself is not just a businessman. He's a business man. And he decided as a business, it was a good investment. And shout out to him, man. Shout out to him. I don't know. Scott Bibbs says his album is trash. That's subjective, right? We don't know musically where he is. He's not in the same place that he was. But, the man did gospel. Those Sunday sermon events, where he takes over an entire plane. Like he does things that are cutting edge. And I guess it just really forces us to deal with that really, really thin line between crazy and genius. But I have to go with genius on this one. He made the right move, took full advantage of what was the opportunity, and did so with record numbers. 202.4 million watched it. They broke every imaginable record with Super Bowl 58. And they did so largely because of the things that went on the field. So let's get to that. Clutch Gene. Andy Reid wins again. They're down 10 points. And when you hear commentators say, they've been down 10 points every Super Bowl that they won, you're forced to deal with the reality that there's a clutch gene in there, right? I had to wait a minute. I got to hear that again. I'm thinking down 10 points. The sky is falling. They're finally going to move to the next chapter with what this grouping looks like. When I think of groupings, I think of Mahomes, Andy Reid, and fill in the blank with anybody and everybody else, especially Taylor Swift. Travis Kelce, and then you hear the commentators say, no, they've been down 10 points in every Super Bowl that they won. Let's start with Andy Reid, man, because the clutch gene, I think Andy Reid is the definition of it. Big Flow Show, I'll let you open up. Let's just go Andy Reid, and then we're going to get to Kyle Shanahan. But let's deal with the coaches first, because one, I think, shows a clutch gene, one doesn't.
I'm a fan of Andy Reid. Obviously he had stuff. He kind of cut his teeth with the Eagles and try to get that right, and he came back here and he's got the right mix to perfect it. But he's a likable coach. You know what I mean? He didn't make a huge deal about getting bumped by your boy. I probably had to slap the hell out of Kelce if it was me. But he's down to earth. He does his little commercials or whatever. He's just a likable guy. I don't know. I root for him. I was pulling for Kansas City. You know, I put some money on it, so I was hoping 40 came through for me. So I appreciate you because none of my another bets hit except for that one, Andy Reid. So I appreciate you. I put a little something coming to your city tonight, so I might put a little something in your books. But yeah, no, I'm an Andy Reid fan. I like him. It's like
he was
what's not
allowed
to
to
like?
grow. He was allowed to grow, and in this episode, because we're talking about the clutch gene, you got to remember that when he was coaching for the Eagles, going to those NFC Championship games, he was questioned ad nauseum. Now I know Terrell Owens and Donovan McNabb had their own spat, and people put it on Donovan McNabb not being clutch, but Andy Reid was the coach of those teams, and so it's admirable that you went to that many NFC championships, but walked away without any hardware. He was questioned. A new opportunity,
more of an
new
AFC
scheme,
guy.
more of AFC, new opportunity, obviously new quarterback, new roster, new coaching staff, and all of that. But I think if you look at the amount of growth between then and now, it's just astronomical. ETP, when you think of Andy Reid, clutch gene, what do you think before we get to Kyle Shanahan? Because that's the other side of the coin. Just as much as we want to celebrate Andy Reid figuring out a way to win yet again, Kyle Shanahan coached a team, and you would argue that he figured out how to lose yet again. But let's stick with Andy Reid first. What do you say, ETP, before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, it's always impressive when a head coach can have continued success. It's hard. I mean, NFL is probably, or football is the hardest sport to become a dynasty in because you're just dealing with so many people, so much movement. I mean,
turnover, yeah.
Coaching staffs, people are in and out. I mean, just lost Eric Bieniemy, so there's been an overhaul, injuries, all of the things that happen. So
yeah,
I think when it's all said and done, I don't know how many more years he has to go. I think he's almost 70 years old. So I think he's, kind of coming to the end of his run. But to be that old in this current NFL landscape, I think is the biggest testament because all the hottest coaches now are more relatable to the players. They're younger. They play, they organize the game in a different way. And for him to, Bill Belichick doesn't have a job, right? Like 72 years old, but they're hiring, 35, 36, 38-year-old coaches because they want that relatability to be able to manage these group of men. And when you're 70 years old, maybe you don't have that relatability, but he's able to, obviously he has great talent around, on the roster that are the kind of core elements, but anybody that can, they've won what, three Super Bowls in the past 7 years or something. It's crazy.
Three in the last 5. They won 3 in the last 5 years.
Yeah. And they've been at 4. So if they can do, they get 2 or 3 more going, there's an argument that he's the greatest coach of all time, discussion too.
The first back-to-back since the Patriots did it. If they were somehow, some way able to win next year, first ever to three-peat in the NFL. Dynasty, used the word, absolutely. You talked about some of his decision-making and his relatability. Well, there was another coach on the other side that's younger, considered more relatable. You talked about the talent on this roster. There was a team on the other side of the Super Bowl versus out that they played, who I would argue is far more talented. And Kyle Shanahan, with a double-digit lead yet again as a coach, figured out how to lose in the Super Bowl. And there's the clutch gene that it's hard to describe. It's like, I don't know what it is, but I know when I see it. And then there's a non-clutch gene, the opposite of it, the choke gene, whatever we want to call it. I don't know what it is, but I know it when I see it. Is Kyle Shanahan the opposite of the clutch gene? Is he a choke artist that we are watching get ample opportunities and show us time and time again he cannot finish the job? I'll start with you on this one, ETP, because you talked about how talented San Fran is, and even questioned when we talked initially, like, is this the most talented team to not win the Super Bowl? If that's the case, to even think of that theoretically means Kyle Shanahan got some splaining to do.
Yeah.
I'll start with you on ATP.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll stand by it. I am pretty much, without going down every single roster, this is the most talented roster that I've ever seen, and maybe arguably the most talented roster ever that has not won a Super Bowl. The only roster that is as stacked on both sides of the ball that I've ever seen or that I can think of is the 90s Cowboys. Like, the amount of Pro Bowlers, the amount of talent, Christian McCaffrey single-handedly is going to potentially go down as one of the greatest offensive players ever, right? And so that piece for me, one, how did you not capitalize with all of that talent? And then two, what you have to think about is at some point, all this talent starts to get disenchanted, right? And what do they start doing? They start questioning coaching and the preparation and the organization. Yeah. So to think that he can continue and come back and have everybody engaged and committed and loyal to his leadership, that's a really challenging expectation. So for me, if I'm part of that organization, if I'm the GM, pretty sure I'm going to have to move on from him, because you start to see cracks in the armor and cracks in the foundation, because it's not just about, oh, you can't get the job done. It's how do you keep these guys motivated to keep performing with you as the head of the snake, if you can't get them to if these little details, these important details, like that's how coaches win championships, in the details. And they missed out on some major details that really exposed like their discipline and their preparation in ways that you don't go to the Super Bowl without that preparation.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to ask you the same thing, but a different way, Big Flow Show, because you talked about the details, ETP, and one of the details that has become clear that was a bit murky, while Kyle Shanahan has stood behind the decision to receive the ball when winning the toss in overtime, only the second ever Super Bowl to go to overtime. Kyle Shanahan was a part of both of them. Kyle Shanahan lost both of them. But that detail to me, he says he knew, but felt like he would have the opportunity to win it on the third drive. That's true if you score a touchdown, but everyone knows, like, not everyone knows, they put up the rules. That's the only reason I knew it, to be fair. And as the time is expiring in the first overtime session, I didn't know if that meant the end of a quarter or the end of the game. So I'm yelling at the TV on the play that Patrick Mahomes throws it to Hartman. I'm yelling at the TV, look at the time, look at the time. So I had to go look at what the rules were. So I'm not saying that it was so widely known. What I'm saying is that I was doing it from the luxury of watching it on television. It wasn't my job to know.
But I think that's a little, I agree that like they should have known, but I think it's overblown that like that's the reason that they lost. Look, if you can't stop the other, if you can run over the other team and score a touchdown, and you can stop the other team, doesn't matter what order you do it in.
Fair.
Like you figure it out. If they went
down,
but
it does change your game plan. It does change your play calling if you know what you need. If you know you need a touchdown versus you know you need a field goal, whatever the case might be, it changes your play calling. So just from a strategy standpoint, I'm not saying that was the reason they lost.
There is an advantage to it, but I think it's overestimated or over exaggerated how much of an advantage it is.
Right. Big Flow Show, I'll throw it to you, man. Kyle Shanahan, quickly before we get out of here and talk about some other coaches, because Kyle Shanahan still has his job. The defense coordinator does not. Let's start with Kyle Shanahan, the clutch gene versus whatever we're going to say. This is this isn't the first time that we've seen Kyle Shanahan being featured for bad decisions that led to a complete collapse and choke in moments that are big moments in the Super Bowl. You were that close. Kyle Shanahan's been that close, and his decisions have led to them not winning now more than once. What do you say, Big Flo?
I mean, we're in a society where unless you achieve ultimate success, you're an ultimate failure, right? Matter of fact, getting so close to success makes you a failure if you don't succeed. So to be part of a collapse, the Atlanta collapse alone should be on his tombstone. It should be his punishment, right?
Failed the math test. It was math at that point. It's
At
math.
that point, you're failing it. You're just not making any sense there. But to lose this game again, it's a great game, but you lose the close ones, and that's how you're judged. I mean, you had an opportunity to win. I always said I'd much rather be blown out than lose a close one. If you just beat the hell out of me, I'm embarrassed for a little while, but I realize they're better than me. But when you lose that close one, you're going to spend the rest of your life thinking about what you could have done to win it. And the thing there, this is 3 times now he's blown it. He's the first. Like if you can make a super coach, you take him in the first half and you take Andy Reid in the second half and can't be stopped. Andy Reid keep coming back from behind and winning. You keep losing your lead after getting out on top fast. So I think
it felt like they weren't up enough. They dominated the game and didn't dominate the scoreboard.
I agree with that. They did look like they were winning by a lot. You do have to question because, I mean, I look at their use of Deebo Samuel, and I say Deebo used to be Christian McCaffrey. Everything Christian McCaffrey's doing, Deebo did. Now that Christian's here, they can't find a way to really get the most out of him. I feel like they use Christian McCaffrey and they sprinkle in Deebo. And I know he's got some injuries. He was banged up. I just don't feel like they found a way to use them to a point where it should be an unstoppable 1-2 punch. The play should be designed where, what are you going to do? You have to either try to stop Deebo or try to stop Christian. And I feel like they let people off the hook, and they don't do that enough. It's like an either or. They flip it back and forth. And I don't know. I feel like, let me have that team. Give me the sticks.
They had Kittles. They got Ayuk. They got McCaffrey.
Yeah, Kittles. Like Kittles is starting to become kind of
Trent Williams. Like, yo, Doug, most talent ever. Like, I'm not
so many goons, and Brock Purdy's pretty good.
Brock Purdy is damn good. I think he's better than that's the other thing. So we went from coaches. Let's get to the clutch gene because I do want to give Brock Purdy his props. Brock Purdy figured out a way in the first round when they should have lost to Green Bay. Brock Purdy turned it on and his spidey senses kicked in. He made plays. NFC Championship game against Detroit, when it looked as though Detroit was going to win going away, Brock Purdy made the biggest plays to help them get back in position to win that game. Mm-hmm. And I would argue that Brock Purdy had a pretty freaking good Super Bowl. So from a clutch gene standpoint, I got to give Brock Purdy his props. Now, Brock Purdy would not have won the MVP had the Niners won the game. There's only 2 people ever, Nick Foles and the receiver, who threw a touchdown to Christian McCaffrey and caught a touchdown from Brock Purdy. There's only 2 people that ever do that. So he probably would have won the MVP. All right. You got to give props to Brock Purdy. I know ETP, you got to get out of here. But let's go home on that. Brock Purdy and what's the other guy's name who won the MVP? Oh yeah, Patrick Mahomes, Clutch Gene, his third MVP.
What's that dude's name?
What's his dude's name?
Like a frog.
Yeah,
ugly wife.
It ain't Taylor Swift, so I don't know what his name is. So
I'll give you, man.
Go ahead, man, before you get out of here.
Yo, listen, you guys have a good weekend. Big Flow's cake is in the oven. I gotta get it out before it burns.
I appreciate you.
Y'all stay safe. Enjoy your 21st birthday, man. Your first drink.
Love y'all.
Peace.
No doubt. Much love, thanks, brother. Much love. The clutch.
I think Purdy's gonna have his day. I think he's established himself. He's been doing it for long enough now that like it's not like a fad. People want to call him a game manager. They want to do whatever they want to call him. I think Brock Purdy's a good quarterback, period. So I think he's going to have his day. I hope that here's the thing is, I like the Kansas City Chiefs, but I've always been a Niners fan. You know what I mean? Like, when I grew up, I liked the Niners, and then they had a bunch of Notre Dame guys when we were coming out that played, so, I kept liking them. I hated Dallas, so watching them battle with Dallas, I liked them, so I've kept it around. So, I would have been cool if they won, If even with Shanahan doing monkey shit that he's been doing, I do think that they could still – this team could win a Super Bowl next year if they just don't make we'll talk about the changes right now. I don't think they should have made. I don't think you should make changes to a team that's close.
Well, let's get into that. Let's get into that because, and I'll just say this because we don't gotta get into Mahomes. Mahomes won his 3rd Super Bowl MVP. He tied Joe Montana. He's only behind Tom Brady at this point, who had 5. So it's safe to say that he's on a trajectory at 28 years old to.
He's not even 30. Yeah,
he's not even 30. He's on a trajectory like that. Dude
straight.
is right. So we don't get into that. We know that Patrick Mahomes, when the game was on the line, whether it was the 4th and 1 in overtime, where he's in a read option, he's got to make a decision. He makes the right decision. All right. He gets into 2nd and long and he escapes the pocket narrowly, but makes the right decision. On that throw, you know that it's got to be a perfect throw because there's not a lot of space. He makes the right throw. As clutch as they come, Patrick Mahomes is now tied with Joe Montana, and only behind Tom Brady. He's in an elite level, so absolute clutch gene. On the other side, we talked about Kyle Shanahan versus Andy Reid, but Kyle Shanahan and that organization decided to fire Steve Wilks, who was the defensive coordinator. He's been a head coach twice, Carolina and Arizona. When you fire someone in such close proximity to a loss, whether we want to say it directly or not, Steve Wilks is now a scapegoat. Steve Wilks got fired in only his 1st year as the defense coordinator. And the defense throughout the season was one of the highlights of that team. And you look statistically, put up great numbers, yet all week I've been hearing people defend the decision to fire Steve Wilks.
I haven't heard those defenses. So
there's been a lot of defenses. It was the right move. You Google it, and there's a ton of articles out there written by reputable journalists that are defending the decision. And again, it's not about race, but at the same time, right? And we're gonna get into the Adrian Griffin thing with them firing him after less than half a season before All-Star break, right? And now Steve Wilks in his 1st year as a defensive coordinator, where trying to get the thing to gel, and I'm being consistent because I talked about Andy Reid having the time, space, and opportunity to grow as a coach and how that has changed his outcomes from, if you compare what he did in Philly versus what he's doing in Kansas City as a head coach, some of that can be attributed to growth. Right. Steve Wilks didn't get the opportunity to grow with that roster, with that defense, and now is an unemployed coach with probably the biggest badge of blame on his shoulder. Do you think still Steve Wilks should have been fired?
Absolutely not. I don't think he should have been fired, but not knowing the full story and not wanting to jump to a conclusion, it's so shocking to me that they fired him. I feel like there has to be something else that we're not seeing, that we're not hearing about. Again, for a good part
he held them to 19 points. He held Mahomes and that offense to 19 points
until the end of the game. I mean, and so I think if there's a letdown, it's the San Francisco offense. If you really want to start saying who's the big letdown, I mean, this is Patrick Mahomes with the number 1 tight end probably in history on his team.
I'm frustrated. Travis Kelce yelling at Andy Reid.
Yeah, it's just not working out. Things are going really good for these guys, and you gotta step up as a head coach. And I feel like it's a bad decision. So it's such a bad. Sometimes you go to a restaurant and they have a combo, and it sounds so bad that it has to be good. Like those ingredients don't go together. So how could it possibly be that way?
If anybody should have got fired, it should have been the special teams coach. Special teams cost them the game. They had a blocked PAT. They had really unlucky bounce of a punt that fell off, touched someone's foot. But
unlucky, you're right about that.
That was so unlucky. I just didn't understand why Steve Wilks, because
that was the only touchdown this guy had given up in regulation, right?
Yeah.
Was off that block punt that he got at the fucking 5-yard line.
Yeah.
So I look at it and just say, he probably said something about his mama a little bit, in the back. Let's be realistic.
What'd you say about my mama?
He said something about his wife or something. It was some shit that went down that made it happen. I'm gonna go there because she can't be that dumb to let go, because his Wilks is gonna land somewhere. I hope Chicago gets him.
Yeah. I hope
we bring him in.
I was shocked by the decision, and yet again, whether we want to face the ugly truth of the conversation or not, whether we want to write it off as, oh, you're just playing the race card. However you want to slice and dice it, the shit just doesn't feel right. That man in his first year got fired after leading that defense, which has been a stellar defense throughout the year. Has it been the best defense? No. Cleveland, we had that. In Baltimore, surely. But it was the best defense in the NFC.
Cleveland and Baltimore, the defensive coordinators are fishing in Cancun.
Yeah.
And this man went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and crucial stops at crucial times in crucial games to get there. I talked about Brock Purdy, but the defense also was a standout in crucial moments with the 49ers, and yet he got fired. So Scott Bibb brings out a great point. Like, Greenlaw, who was probably the best player on that defense, or one of. He's a difference.
Yeah, blows his Achilles running on
freak accident. Yeah. Freak accident.
So I always say, when you fire someone like that, who are you gonna go get? Whose resume are you gonna hire now?
I don't know, man.
Who's out there that just came out of the Super Bowl and had the number and increase your defense from the guy who just got upgraded to head coach because of his defense? Gave you a better defense than that this year. Better in multiple categories. So who is your candidate?
I don't know. But ETP pointed out whether or not this group was going to stand in solidarity behind Kyle Shanahan. I think decisions like that, when you fire a Steve Wilks and you show just how disloyal you are in terms of the unit that just got to the Super Bowl, there is no higher place to get. I mean, yeah, they could have finished the game and won the Super Bowl, but an epic Super Bowl, overtime, down to the wire. It was literally a game of inches. A punt hits a player's foot, and you, for 3.9 quarters of the game, slowed down who is in the conversation of being the greatest of all times, and Patrick Mahomes. You slowed down Andy Reid. You had him on the ropes, and you get fired. So I just think from
5-5 teams giving the D coordinator another chance. This man went to the bowl. He don't get a second run up. He don't get a bet back. We can't run these back.
And then the journalists that have just gone to bat and defended this decision all week just has me shook. So we shall see, man. But I thought that the timing of that firing meant that essentially Steve Wilks got the blame. He's the scapegoat.
Look, watch. They're going to hire Steve Wilks at the Chiefs, and he's going to come back and win.
They're going to have the best defense of all time. No, but Spags did a good job. Their defense coordinator timed up a blitz that I think was perfect. Spags got a lot of credit, and just by way of the personnel decision, Steve Wilks got a lot of the blame. Mm-hmm. And, it is what it is. I think the clutch gene says a lot about you in terms of what you do in hiring and firing too. So Kyle Shanahan, I'm off of him, man, officially. Let's get quickly into one or two more topics and get out of here for the day. First one is this, because I compared it to the Adrian Griffin firing. And now we've got 10 games since they have fired Adrian Griffin and retained and hired Doc Rivers. The Milwaukee Bucks are 3-7. Last night, they got beat by a pedestrian team. I think they lost to Memphis last night, but 113-110. I think it was. I can't remember who it was, but I do remember that after the game, you have Doc Rivers essentially saying, "Look, man, some of our players were already in Cancun, not physically, but mentally. They were saying that they were out to lunch, basically. Their minds were in Cancun, their bodies were on the court." And the reason I bring it up here after talking about Steve Wilks is because sometimes you got to be careful what you ask for. Do you think that Doc Rivers turns this around and this is a happy ending story? Because if not, Adrian Griffin at that point had the second best record in the entire NBA. So what do you think happens from here with Doc Rivers and this Milwaukee Bucks roster?
Well, if there's a problem brewing in Milwaukee, it's definitely not. It wasn't Adrian Griffin. We can figure that part out right now. It's
Right.
kind of unfair for Doc to be judged. Like you just throw this guy in this team that just had this weird shakeup. I mean, he had to take the job. Why not? He wasn't doing nothing, so he took the job. But it's kind of tough to do it.
Yeah.
I just think it's such an idiot thing to do when you're in first place to get rid of the leader, because it's easier to fix the problem than it is to start anew. And I think trying to move directions in a whole new thing where there's no off-season conversations. You just give Doc Rivers just the hot potato and say, go figure it out. So I don't think Doc's been around for a while. I think that this slide is something that he'll fix. I do think he'll fix that, but I'll never understand why they fired Adrian. I think that they should have they can't disclose it, but you always feel like it's so bad of a decision, it has to be something else. That's how I look at it. I try to give people some credit. It was such a bad decision. It had to be.
Yeah, it was the Memphis Grizzlies who are playing without Ja Morant, and they did lose 113-110. In my mind, I just couldn't accept that it was the lowly Grizzlies, but it was. And they're 3-7. And so that makes me think about the San Francisco decision. You just got to be really careful, man. Sometimes you got to give people time to figure it out and grow. And but Doc Rivers, man, that's why it's not just about race. Doc Rivers is a black man who I think has been overemployed for the last two iterations of jobs that he has held. He has been the opposite of the clutch gene. Doc Rivers was the same coach that was up 3-1 and lost. Doc Rivers was the same coach that had multiple Hall of Famers that couldn't get out of their own way. Doc Rivers, has one championship. When the big three came together, that's his only championship. Ain't done much since. So I don't make it about race, but there is something about the clutch gene and the opposite of it. Let's go home with this, man, because while we're talking about Doc Rivers, two coaches did the unthinkable, man. One was Chip Kelly. He stepped down from being the head coach of UCLA, right, who is now going to the Big Ten. The U, the C, the L, the A. Yeah, that UCLA, to be a coordinator at Ohio State. And then not to be outdone, there's a coach who was the head coach of Georgia Southern, because at least Chip Kelly did it in a timely manner, although it was confusing. Shawn Elliott was the head coach of Georgia Southern. 2 practices into spring football, I guess he looked around and was like, this ain't it. He stepped down and is now going to be the tight end coach at the University of South Carolina.
And I think we could all agree. Tight end coach is kind of like one of them jobs. It's like, look, man, I'm looking for a job. He's like,
quality control. That's quality control.
Hey, we'll give you the tight ends, man. They're not quite a lineman, they're not quite a receiver. So you getting secondary, you just getting, you like the get back coach of the offensive meeting room and stuff. So I think it's crazy. I think it's a big sign of the times, and people just don't like the state of the affairs in football, and running the show is tough. With NIL and transfer portal and all the different things, I think some people just don't want to smoke anymore, and they're just going to move out of the way and do whatever. Chip Kelly's like, I don't want to smoke. I can't do it, y'all. UCLA is notorious for offering late scholarships. It's hard to get guys in. He wanted to be transfer portal U. That didn't work out. Things aren't doing well. He's going to get exposed now that he's going to be in a better conference. So he just said, fuck it. Let me just go out here. And
in both cases, man, because this episode is a clutch gene. 2 men that are in the hot seat. They're in the Budweiser hot seat, but they're at the top of the org chart when it comes to coaching. You're in a position that I assume you've been coveting for a while to be a head coach. You wear the title. You get all the credit, but you also take all the responsibility. And I think the clutch gene that's the reality of it, is that you've got to be okay with being in the line of fire. You got to be okay with taking the criticism. You got to be okay with making, lemonade out of lemons. You got to make sugar out of, you want to make sugar out of shit, right? Because if you don't have the tools, you don't have the NIL money, you got to figure it out. I know Georgia Southern didn't have the NIL money. UCLA might have been, compared to other programs in the Big Ten, a la Ohio State, might have been behind, but that's what it takes. Roll up your sleeves, have the clutch gene to get it done. I think both men hit the escape button, and young men that are under their tutelage, hopefully they will not take that as a good example of what to do when you're in those moments. I'll give you final word in this Clutch Gene episode.
I would say this on my way out is that I think that maybe I'm going to give Kelly, maybe he's doing something strategic. He's going to go there because I mean, no one's happier to see Day or Harbaugh go to the NFL than Day. If he can go back there and win a Big Ten championship, which now it's going to be tougher because now there's more schools in there, but there's a lot of shakeup in the schools. I think Washington's new, everyone's kind of new, but Day's on the hot seat. So I think if Day gets kicked out of there, maybe Kelly thinks I'll be the next one over there. I want to get the
I'm
house.
next in line. Maybe
I'm next.
You got a point. Maybe you got a point. You got to watch who you have. I'm in Seattle. Let's give a shout out to Seattle Seahawks, man, because they gave Geno Smith that money, man. Guaranteed money, 12.1. That's a good story.
Appreciate that.
It's Clutch Gene. Show out on him, Geno. Been a great episode, man. For those of you who joined in, we had the Big Flow show on his birthday. Happy birthday, my brother.
Happy birthday to all the chillers out there. I want y'all to go to bed early, stay off my grass. Okay. And don't smoke those reefers.
Don't smoke the reefers,
Don't
baby.
smoke the reefers.
Hey, man.
So,
to get old is a blessing, man. But to show up on your birthday and deliver good content shows that you have the Clutch Gene. Before we leave, let's do a very, very brief. ETP was in the building today, too. He left a little earlier. But let's do a brief moment of silence because in America, there's this gene that we use Clutch Gene differently. Unfortunately, I think all too often people are clutching a gun. And there's something genetic. There's something hereditary about us relying on a gun in this country. And so for the Kansas City shooting, looks like it was triggered by a personal dispute versus a target on lives. Yet one life was lost, 22 people injured. There's like 8 people that are in intensive care units. And so for the one life that was lost, but also the idea of freedom and doing a parade and just this fragility of America and us always looking to guns, clutching a gun. Let's take a brief.
Half the victims are under 16, the youngest being an 8-year-old. I don't care if it was terrorism, personal or whatever. You're an effing coward to sit there in a group like that and shoot and hit an 8-year-old kid. I don't care what your motivation was. They should have beat your ass more when they got you. It's 3 people that were involved in the shooting, and I think it's bad. I wish we did have more time to discuss it because I do think that you know these type of topics deserve discussion. But it's terrible. You're trying to celebrate. There's all these people out there. Just the selfishness to even think that you're going to come out there and deal with a dispute if that's what you were doing. When you have all these people so happy, the city's so happy. So again, I'm on my way to Kansas City right now. So I will see, you know, what the mood and the tone of the town is. But it's very tragic to hear.
Very tragic to hear. Please, people, stop clutching a gun. I believe in your right to bear arms, but also believe in other people's rights to be safe when they go to a parade to celebrate a Super Bowl champion. Your right doesn't trump theirs. So let's take a brief moment of silence for the life that was lost at the parade. Been a great show, man. This week, the Clutch Gene. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you tag a friend, tag a foe, tag anybody you know, and subscribe to the YouTube channel and the podcast. The sun is finally coming out in Seattle, man. It's been raining. Yeah, finally coming out in Seattle. Let's get out of here. The Big Flow Show, man. Happy Born Day, champ.
Thank you, sir.
Man. Showed up on his birthday. ETP was in the building. I am your boy, B Brown ESQ, aka the Ball Hog, aka the Mouth of the South, aka Mr. Excessive Celebration, aka Bareezy. This has been our show. It's been the Clutch Gene episode of the Ball Hog Sports Talk, where sports, business, and entertainment collide. We did it the only way we do it, rough, rugged, and raw. So make sure you help us, help other people. Get it to other people, man. Ain't gonna cost you nothing. You be helping us out tremendously. We'll see you guys next week. We'll be back with the same fervor, the same energy, and the same group doing what we do. And with that, enjoy your weekend, y'all. Y'all be safe. We is out. Peace.